with Urban Resource Institute's President and CEO, Nathaniel Fields, and Danielle Emery, Director of the PALS program.
We provide those client-centered, trauma-informed services to three populations: victims of domestic violence, homeless families, and people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. In fact, we're the largest domestic violence shelter provider in the country.
So the PALS program was an innovative program launched by Urban Resource Institute in 2013. It welcomes survivors of domestic violence into our domestic violence shelters with their pet family members. So our program operates as co-living, so that means that the pets come in and live in the apartments with the families, meaning that they get to stay together during that traumatic time where they're going through something difficult together as a family, and also heal together. So come into the environment and recover from the abuse that they have experienced together. And the program is so important and innovative because it reduces barriers to safety for families and barriers for housing for people who have pets. So we have been around since 2013. We've welcomed over 480 people into the program, more than 250 pets. That also includes more than 300 children. So a large number of children have been served by the PALS program. Is the first domestic violence shelter in the country that was built from the ground up with pets and people in mind. So it's a 7-story, 30-apartment domestic violence shelter. And some of the things that we did to incorporate pets into the environment was to be thoughtful about the paint colors, to be thoughtful about the choice of flooring, to put wainscoting in the apartments so that if there were accidents or anything that happened in the apartment, it would be easy to clean. We also have a grooming station on site. We have a pet park that is being constructed over the winter so that there's a private space for families to go and spend time together with their pets in a way that feels safe, and that also gives them that opportunity to bond.
Prevention is often hard to fund because it's not as tangible as opening up a shelter and having a safe space. But we know it works. A lot of the studies, the research bears that it works. So RAP was born out of let's engage a preventive model to look at violence, and particularly intergenerational violence. And so we touch about 30 to 40,000 students in intermediate schools and in high schools with an ability to have a deeper sense of domestic violence and understanding that love is not abuse. It's a peer-led initiative where we train high school students to understand domestic violence, but then they engage on a peer level, and they create a community that's very supportive and nurturing, and it spills into anti-bullying and other things. So the school becomes a community, and it's portable. It's not the staff keeping it, it's shared with the students. So when they leave, they reinforce and understand the signs of domestic violence. They understand how to engage someone who may be experiencing domestic violence. They raise awareness of domestic violence, and an inclusive language that the young people engage in. It's just amazing when I'm at the schools and hear them talk about it. I've been around a little bit, a couple of decades, and when I hear students talk about domestic violence and prevention, I see hope that we will one day end domestic violence, not only in New York City, but in the country. They can expect to see a very vibrant domestic violence shelter that's a co-living. And that's unique because a lot of shelters don't have the ability to have the pet directly in the apartment, in the unit with them. Sometimes they have fostering or boarding opportunities. So that promotes healing. Having direct access to your loved one, we know promotes healing. So Danielle, maybe a little more what they can expect.
Yeah, so learning about the PALS program, but most importantly, probably learning about how URI saw this gap in services that existed in New York City and really took the opportunity to innovate and expand services and options that was available for the New York City population. So we'll talk more about how the program was conceived and developed in partnership with those animal welfare partners. and then everything that we do for our families to date, and then how people could consider incorporating their own co-living programs or other innovations within their communities to try to address gaps in services.
Consist of licensed social workers, to case managers, to child therapists, to residential specialists, to child care workers, to legal experts. We have a legal team that is part of URI that works with survivors around orders of protection and other types of legal information. We have a fabulous new economic empowerment center. We understand that it's not just only domestic violence, but other things intersect with domestic violence. So about 90 to 98% of survivors who we engage also have been suffered economic abuse. When our families are in shelter, we make sure that the pets get all the medical care that they need. We work with them to work on any behavior issues, give them some additional training support, kind of work with them to make them kind of the best apartment living pets they could possibly be, to try to work on resources for after they're leaving shelter and identifying pet-friendly housing. How do we set them up for the most success that they could have after they leave shelter? We also supply them with all the food, enrichment, everything that they need while they are in shelter to alleviate some of the financial burdens that may come from pet ownership. In many places, we used to say and used to practice abusive partners can't change. We need to hold them accountable, and that really meant increasing awareness and of course it was a crime that they committed and hold them accountable for that crime. We still want to hold them accountable, but we want to look at the evidence. Are there evidence-based models that we can engage abusive partners in while holding them accountable to move away from hurting behaviors? Because at the end of the day, if we don't do that, they're going to only go into another relationship and continue the pattern of abuse. And so in partnership, we started in Westchester County with the criminal justice groups up there, and we received a grant in partnership with the Manhattan DA's office to work with abusive partners using an evidence-based intervention model. We have a research component that's going to follow our work to see in terms of what we're doing in terms of the implementation of the model. Is it meeting the desired outcomes? That we are doing this work on a scale and scope that's bigger than anyone else in the country. We have 7 shelter locations where we have our PALS program currently, 7 of URI's 12 domestic violence shelters, and we have more than 45 families in shelter with their pets. So we realize that we have a lot that we can share and that we can teach to other organizations about how to develop their own co-living programs or co-sheltering programs within their organizations. So in 2020, we're launching a community response model, which will enable us to provide that individualized, tailored services specific to a community or an agency that is looking to adapt co-living and wants to provide services for survivors with pets.
To learn more or donate, visit URINYC.org. To attend the site visit or breakout session at the Beyond Housing Conference in January, register at ICPHUSA.org.